What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about how to do a push-up correctly because let's face it, push-ups are awesome. You can do them anytime, you can do them anywhere. It requires no equipment, and they really work well at increasing the strength and size of your chest and your triceps and the front of your shoulders. But unfortunately, most people were taught how to do push-ups incorrectly. And I think, at least for the rest of you guys out there, we all had the same middle school PE coach for whatever reason. I don't know how that works out in the timeline, but it seems to be when I have a conversation about push-ups with people in middle school, they all learned how to do them the wrong way from their PE coach. So we're going to fix the damage that was done by that person. We're going to show you how to do them correctly so that you're safe long-term, because when done incorrectly, push-ups can really mess up your shoulders, and we don't want that. We want you to be able to utilize push-ups as a part of your fitness arsenal so that you can use them long-term to increase the size and strength of your muscles and then maintain that once you get to a place you want to be. So let's get right into it. Let's show you how to do push-up the right way. Knowing just a little bit about anatomy helps when we're dissecting how to do push-ups with proper form, specifically the anatomy of the shoulder. You see, this is a ball joint right here, and the ball joint is easy to hinge, and that's when you have bone on bone in a position where it's going to rub on tendons and ligaments, and with enough wear, we get tear, which we don't want. So this would be your standard T style push-up, and it's called a T because if you looked at somebody from behind, they would look like a T, just like this. And the reason T style push-ups are so bad for your shoulders is because the ball joint gets impinged on the scapula, which is this guy right here, in this position at the bottom of a T. The T position also limits range of motion. And if you know anything about hypertrophy, which is increasing the actual size of your muscle, range of motion is really important, because what we need to do if we're trying to work the pec muscles on the front of the body here is we have to get proper range of motion so we get a full stretch in the chest, which doesn't allow us to do in this T position. So this is what not to do. You don't want to do push-ups in the T position with your elbows flared out to the sides for two reasons. Number one, impingement. Impingement leads to injury. Number two, range of motion. There's an inadequate range of motion from the pectoral muscles or your chest muscles that connect from your rib cage here on into your bone here. So that being said, how do we do push-ups the right way? Let's talk about it. Check this goofy fella out right here. The left arm is in the classic T-style push-up, and you see some obvious impingement right here. This is when the scapula is going to rub on the tendons on the top of your shoulder there, causing an enormous amount of pain and a reduction in range of motion, and ultimately that is going to lead into an injury. And then we have the proper way to do push-ups over here. As you can see, there's a big distance here for all the ligaments of the rotator cuff to flow freely in and around the ball joint of the scapula. In order to do a push-up correctly, as you can see, the elbows need to point down towards your toes, not out away from your body. This is how we do a push-up correctly, to where we can increase the strength and size of our chest, triceps, and shoulders. This is how we do a push-up incorrectly. Doesn't increase the strength or size of anything, and it leads to injury. So we've established the proper and the improper way to do push-ups. Improper way is out here in this T position. Proper way is elbows practically rubbing the ribs in this bottom position. Now, that being said, this way is a lot easier. It's easier because there's less range of motion. If you want to make any resistance training easier, all you got to do is reduce the range of motion. Easy way that hurts you, hard way that causes you to grow. So hands have to be placed directly below the shoulders. This would be outside of the shoulders. This would be inside of the shoulders. We want the hands directly below the shoulders. From here, instead of putting my elbows out to where they would go this way when I go down, I would roll them under so they go back when I go down. Now, the proper range of motion for me would be to actually touch my chest to the ground. And the reason for that is I want my elbows to come above my posterior delts or my rear shoulders at the bottom of a push-up without anything else touching the ground, meaning my thighs and my stomach stay off the ground while my chest actually touches the ground. Elbows are going back into the ribs from the bottom all the way to the top. The elbows are pointed down towards my toes. Now, the inherent problem with that is they're very difficult, and hardly anybody starts out on their toes performing push-ups the right way. So how do we build up to being able to do push-ups the correct way? Elbows into the ribs, touching the chest to the ground on your toes. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. The way that I found works the best for most people to start is in an elevated position, and that can be a countertop, that can be a chair or a stool or an ottoman or a coffee table or anything that elevates the upper body. If the upper body is elevated off the ground, it's reducing resistance because gravity pulls straight down. So instead of gravity pulling the weight of your body right down your arms, it's going to pull down this way and put more of it on your feet. So in this position, make sure your hands are directly underneath your shoulders or in front of your shoulders here. And then make sure you do this. Rotate the elbows under. This is important. Even if you're on your knees on the ground or on your toes on the ground, you've got to learn to roll the elbows under just like this. If I start to do a push-up in this normal position that's just relaxed, the elbows automatically go into that T position. Roll the elbows under, then you start to lower yourself for your push-up. And you do want a good range of motion. I'm going to try to touch my chest to this box before I press to the locked out upright position. Now, as soon as I can perform, I'm going to say 20 of these, it's going to be time for me to get a little bit lower of a platform to elevate the body on. I realize that not everybody has access to a variety of plyo boxes here like I do, where you can go down incrementally as you get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. But I assure you, you can make this work. You can go in your house from the countertop to the back of the couch, to the seat of the couch, to the seat of a kitchen chair, and then eventually onto the ground. But when you go onto the ground, you don't go right onto your toes, you go onto your knees first. So let's talk about that. When you eventually get to the point where you're ready to do push-ups on the ground, you have to start in the knee position instead of on the toes. The knee position will reduce the weight of your upper body, but you have to be very careful here because if you lower the hips too low and you start to gradually worm yourself down from your thighs to your hips to your stomach and then eventually your chest, there is no resistance from here. This is just me doing a cobra, which is a yoga pose, essentially just bending the spine. So if I start to do my push-ups on my knees and I get to this position, I'm only starting to get resistance right about here. And so I'm getting resistance in the very top part of the range. I'm likely not going to progress from here if I do push-ups on my knees like that. I'll likely never move onto the toes. So what you have to do when you're on push-ups on your knees is you have to keep a slight bend in your hips to keep the hips off the ground. Now from here, I'm getting all the resistance from the very bottom. So as soon as I'm proficient here, then eventually you can get up onto your toes. And that is the goal, is to work yourself up to where you can do push-ups on your toes. Now 20 is a really steep goal for push-ups on your toes. And I don't know if a lot of people are going to get to a place where they can just bust out 20 push-ups on their toes. Just being realistic here. But as you're working down, once you're on the very tallest part, like your counter, you want to be able to do 20 there. You want to lower it and be able to do 20. Once you lower it again, maybe 15, and then try it. But as soon as you can get one push-up on your knees, just to keep the volume, if you can only get one on your knees and then you fail on the second one, you need to go back to an elevated position to do more, to add some reps to that. And with enough sets and enough reps, eventually you will be on your toes. Well, that is, unless your body composition isn't favorable to push-ups, in which case you got some weight to lose, big deal. You can also lose the weight and then eventually work up to your toes. And basically what I mean by that is you might be too heavy to push the weight of your body up. And if that's the case, then you work on weight loss while you're also working on your push-ups. Hope you guys like this video. I got plenty of more videos to check out if you're into health and fitness, so go ahead and give those a look. Please subscribe to the channel, like the channel, comment for the algorithm. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I will hook you up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.